Hi everyone, so we're going to be looking at how we can make this little dot here, and then whenever we hover over it, we're going to have some sort of animation. So if I hover over it, it turns from blue to red, and you can see that nice transition from a large square to a smaller square. And then when I remove that hover, it goes back to blue. So I'm not clicking on anything, I'm just hovering over it. It's these little animated effects that I'm going to be teaching you how to do in this video. And what we're going to be using today is we're going to be using Framer Motion. Right here, this is an animation documentation, so I'm only going to be teaching you one thing in this video, but if you read throughout the documentation, you'll see more stuff on like gestures, scrolls, and everything else. But let's first look at the documentation over here. If we go to this introduction, it does show that we're going to have this thing called motion dot whatever tag we want. So if we're using a span, a div, or whatever it is, we still put motion at the front and then a dot and then whatever tag name we want. And this way we're able to then target that specific tag to have that animated effect. And you can see here as we scroll down, we can add these like different values, whether it's transitioning from left to right on the x-axis, y-axis, rotating. So right over here, I have a brand new project or a brand new window open, and I'm going to just open up a new terminal and I'm going to create a project on my desktop. So I'll go to my desktop and then I'll say npx create next app, and I'll call it Framer Motion dot, or I'll say square. You can call this project anything you'd like. And for this stuff, when it asks for TypeScript and ESLint, I'll say no to everything. No, 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 no. And here, import alias, just hit enter. And right over here, once it's done, we are going to drag and drop this folder into Visual Studio Code. We're going to just drag and drop this folder into Visual Studio Code once it's done. And now that's done, we're just going to drag and drop it into Visual Studio. And we got a brand new project set up here. What we want to do is go into Pages and index.js. And right over here, we're going to just create a default template. I'm just going to remove everything in between the main tag. So delete that. And you should just have a template that looks like this, because we are going to add some information and stylizing in between the main tag. But the most important thing I would say is that we have to actually install the package. So right now, if we go to package.json, you can see this is the default template, but we need to add Framer Motion into this dependencies right here. In order to do this, we can actually install it. What I'll do here is installation. So what we can do is if we actually search for Framer Motion, so right here, if we search for Framer Motion and we go to this npmjs.com, it'll tell you here how to install it. We'll just copy this and we'll go back to our code. I'm just going to save it right there. But I will open a terminal. And if I look at my package.json, you can see it's just basic right now. But if we install this Framer Motion, it'll be added to our dependencies once it's done installing. And right over here, you can see that we have Framer Motion installed now. Now we can actually start using the motion tag or motion within our tag, and we're going to create that button. So let's go back to our pages index.js, And inside here, we're going to have a div. So this is how you'd normally set up a div, right? You'd have an opening and closing div, but because we want to add motion to this div, we actually don't need the closing there. We can add the closing right away in this div, but in front of the word div, we're going to add motion dot. And you can see here it turns a different color because it's something special about it. And I'm just going to add that closing tag a little bit to the bottom because inside, in between this tag here, the same one tag we have, we're going to add some customization, some stylization over here. And first thing we need to do is we need to import motion, and we'll say from framer motion. And this is what we have so far. I'll just make the title square framer motion. And then here in between this opening and closing tag, I'm going to add some stylization. So I'll have style is equal to, I have to have 2 curly brace brackets. And in between this style, I'm just going to set up a width for this box. I'll say 150, height 150, border radius 20, and I'll say background color and this is actually going to be 00, in quotes. I'm going to put hashtag 121280. I'm going to make it blue at first. But now here, after this style, we're also going to add a while hover. And this is a framer motion, this is just a framer motion property that we're going to be using. So it's saying while we're hovering over something, we're going to change this div. And what we're going to change it to is inside these curly brace brackets again, we're going to add scale 0.8, so it'll make it smaller once we hover over it. And then we're going to change the background color to be, we'll say, a red color. And just like that, we should have a working animation for this square. Let's test it out. So let me run this, npm run dev. So we'll go to localhost 3001. Localhost 3001. So right now we're going to localhost 3001 and we'll see if our animation is working. And right now the background is black because I haven't actually gotten rid of the styles. So I'm just going to go to styles, globals.css. I'm just going to delete this because it's messing up the styles right now. I just want plain white background. And there we go. So we got our square. It's a blue color. When I hover over it, you can see it gets smaller. And then when I remove the mouse from that square, it just turns back to blue. But you can see there's like an animation to it. I'm not even clicking on the button. It's just while hover effect. It's just changing color and size. So this is how you go about starting off your project with Framer Motion.